Breaking down Florida State. Here we go with Logan Robinson from an old game day. We would ask right out of the gate that you like the video, share the videos out on social media, because if you enjoy the content, others will as well. And of course, subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football. Logan, how are we doing today?
Good afternoon. Doing fantastic. We are almost in the mid-July mark. That means that we're counting down really the days until fall camp. We're starting to feel the football effects. It's nice and toasty here in Tallahassee. It's sunny and partly cloudy, a little rainy, so we're getting close to that football practice weather, and I'm excited. I'm so tired of talking so much about it. I want to start previewing some games and recapping some games, but we got some fun positions to go over before fall camp begins.
Absolutely. I'm going to be so happy when we can actually talk about football that we just watched.
Yep.
And not about what we saw 9 months ago and what we expect to see. But we'll get there. We got about 6-7 weeks till we see Florida State on the field against Notre Dame. And who knows who we're going to see a quarterback at that point, because when Mackenzie Milton decided to transfer, of course, Seminole fans were happy, overjoyed, excited. All those things make total sense. The guy was lights out for 2 years at UCF, but he's obviously coming off a major injury. You got Jordan Travis with a bit of a different skill set. Line us up for what could be, when you talk about August camp, the quarterback battle could be very exciting.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the most fun quarterback battles I think we've seen in a very long time. I think, to me, Jordan Travis is still a guy that proved himself as being a crazy athlete last year. Some of the things that maybe put him down was, some of his throws and, not being able to hit some deep throws and maybe some reads here and there. But the thing is that you can't keep him off the field. He was able to make plays and work with that offensive line. The offensive line didn't make some steps forward, but there were some times where the quarterbacks in play were making it. He had a lot of quarterbacks had enough time to throw, but, it caused that whole side to fall down and crumble down. You've got offensive tackles getting beat down, and so Jordan Travis is having to run and make plays. This is a guy that's got a bright future. I think with Mackenzie Milton coming into the locker room, being able to watch film with him, he as a leader, I think will be huge. A leader overall for this whole team. With Milton arriving to come from UCF, a well-respected player there in Orlando, along with across the whole entire country, coming back from an injury like this and wanting to suit up and play again is something impressive.
Now, Mackenzie Milton showed some rust during spring practice. Took him a while to get going, but once the lights were on for spring game, he showed what he can do, and one of the reasons why he was brought on campus. The boy can thread the needle when he needs to.
Yeah, no, we saw it in the spring game. I was a little shocked because Dustin and I, our lead writer and editor at NG, we were there for every open spring scrimmage, and he looked terrible. He just didn't look good. I won't be nice about it. He didn't look good at all. Everybody there that was watching it or covering it would agree. He just didn't look good at all. He wasn't finding connections with his wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, short throws, kind of antsy in the pocket a little bit, but a whole 180. You go to the spring game, and we talked about it too, Mark, on here. I was predicting, this is a kind of guy like a Jameis who, when under the lights, performs the best. He performs very well. He had people in the stands watching him, had TV on him, had television, like cameras on him, and he performs well. And so I'm interested to see if that is a thing, like if that was just not a one and done kind of deal, or if that's going to continue going into fall camp. He's been in town for majority of this off season, and he's been building chemistry with his wide receivers. He did this since immediately arriving at FSU. He's been spending time with Andrew Parchment, who we'll talk about in the wide receiver position preview, getting into fall camp. He's been working with him, another transfer from Kansas, day one, nonstop, trying to build that chemistry. And I think there's still a lot more to be done with that, but him being here in the spring and working through that, and him actually playing fully through a spring game is great. And like the effect of having him in that locker room might be the biggest thing, because he's a winner. Florida State players haven't really seen that before. Florida State hasn't had that in the locker room in a while. So having a winner come in, if they're down, you're not just going to see Milton kind of just sit there on the sideline and be quiet. Or if there needs to be some kind of leadership, there needs to be a talk inside the locker room. This is a guy coming in that knows how to win, and is going to preach that and kind of get into some guys' heads a little bit in case things are kind of spiraling down.
Logan, when you were going through the skill set for Jordan Travis, the obvious one is dynamic runner, playmaker with his feet. The throwing, you kind of analyzed that to a certain extent. What we saw out of him last year, about 1,000 yards, 55% completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, 6 picks. Based on you made your evaluation of Mackenzie Milton during the spring scrimmages into the spring game, what about Jordan Travis? Do you think he's improved as a passer?
I think there's still some more things to be worked on. I think majority of it's going to be how that offensive line holds up. I think if he's able to make those first and second reads and maybe work on that deep ball. There was times last year where, he made some impressive plays that kind of shocked a little bit of us whenever he was able to go connect deep down the field with a few guys. We're like, whoa, hey, wait a second. Why was Jordan Travis not thrown out there earlier before Tate Rodemaker? Because at the time, Chuba Purdy wasn't healthy enough to go in. So Tate Rodemaker went in and then Jordan Travis went in. And, he kind of shocked us a little bit by throwing, but the inconsistency is there. There's got to be the fall camp, I hope, is going to help a lot. He's going to have competition. This is what the best thing is about, definitely fall camp for college quarterbacks. Definitely when there's someone on your tail or you're 1-2 with somebody, you're chasing, you're training harder. You're trying to connect better with your wide receivers. You're trying to watch film more. You're trying to understand your reads a little bit faster because, that's going to be perfect for Jordan Travis. He needs that. And like I said earlier, you're just not going to be able to keep him off the field this upcoming season. You're going to have to see, we're going to see him a lot on the field. I still, we'll probably talk about when we get closer to season or now, but it'll be interesting to see who, Norvell actually picks to be the starter. I think it's going to be a lot of Jordan Travis, maybe a good amount of Mackenzie Milton. I still think right now Jordan Travis has the best chemistry overall on this team in the quarterback room, but Mackenzie Milton is going to be right behind him fighting for it.
Yeah, it just seems like their skill sets are so different to a certain extent. Although Milton, when he was healthy, he was mobile, maybe not to the level of a Jordan Travis, but he was definitely a mobile quarterback. But the passing, the experience, the leadership goes Milton's way. The playmaking ability with his feet obviously go Jordan Travis's way, just to see maybe who's making the better decisions and putting the ball where it needs to be placed in August camp is what's going to decide this thing. Yeah. Got Logan Robinson on the line from Knoll Game Day, breaking down the Knolls at quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. You mentioned Chuba Purdy, got Tate Rodemaker. They threw 53 and 29 passes, respectively, which is quite a few attempts out of third and fourth quarterbacks. What did you see out of them? Where do you think we're headed in regards to a third quarterback?
I think for a third guy, the immediate option right now is going to be Purdy. He's arrived back in Tallahassee after spending a majority of spring and the beginning of the summer with his family recovering from an additional surgery to his upper body. He's been dealing with the collarbone injury since spring scrimmage of last year. So he's having to rehab. I do know that he's throwing now, which is a good sign that he'll be a full go for fall camp. And I do expect him to be that third option. The thing with him is, I still think there's some things for him to work on. And, he was kind of thrown into a few situations last year as a true freshman, but there is some bright side. There is like a bright future for him. I think, I'm interested to see, if he does get an option to go in this upcoming season, what happens there. I think it'd be, bittersweet if he is seeing some time this upcoming season, because like we were just talking about, you got Jordan Travis and Mackenzie Milton up there at the helm. But still some growing there for Purdy and Tate Rodemaker. We've seen all the things, we've heard things, we've got to see in spring scrimmages of him light it up. But then when it gets into the real deal, when it gets to real game experience, it's not so pretty. So both of these guys are going to probably sit back and watch Mackenzie Milton and Jordan Travis go at it this fall camp. But it's going to be a great learning lesson for them. It's much needed. Definitely for Purdy, really just coming back and trying to build that chemistry back with his teammates is going to be huge, and staying healthy. So these two are going to be watching these guys and learning from them in the film room. And, this is still a young QB room. You got Mackenzie Milton as the grandfather in here, it feels like, but you got a sophomore quarterback redshirt sophomore quarterback with Jordan Travis. And then you've got redshirt freshman quarterbacks Purdy and Rodemaker. This is a young quarterback room. It's only going to continue to get younger whenever you have AJ Duffy coming in next year. So it's going to be interesting to watch this fall.
Jordan Travis led the team in rushing, 569 yards, almost 6 yards per carry, and 7 touchdowns. Now, Mike Norvell does not want to see that. I got to think he does not want to see that again in 2021. He wants a running back to lead the team in rushing. Jayshon Corbin turned in a pretty nice season at 5 yards per carry and 5 touchdowns. LaDamian Webb's gone. But Lawrence Toafili is, I think, a guy that everybody wants to see with his hands on the football a little bit more.
Yeah, the young baby 9. That's what Carlos Williams calls him, baby 9. He rocks a 9. He's a small cat. Interested to see if Storms and the strength and conditioning staff is able to put a little pounds on him. Maybe he doesn't need it, but I'd like to see a little bit of meat on him to help him stay healthy. That was the thing last year. He'd have some plays, but he'd have to come off to the sideline. If he could stay 100% through a game, through the season, that's a nasty weapon. He's had a good amount of games. I think Miami too is where he really liked to show out. A lot of FSU running backs like to do that against Miami, but still a nasty loss. Let's don't be wrong. But going back to Toafili, he's got a bright future. I think he's an all around the best back in that running back room right now. I don't put him too far away from Jayshon Corbin though. I thought the way Corbin finished off the season, I think he played great. I think definitely against the Duke game he showed off his skills, but I think the majority of the first half of the season, he was dealing with trying to get back in action, try to get the rust off after his knee injury at Texas A&M. So I'm excited about this running back room. But Toafili by far is a guy that I think has the most talent in that room. And Mike Norvell is able, and Coach Johnson too, but mainly Mike Norvell knows how to work some magic in the running backs in that position group, and he's sent quite a few into the NFL. He's had some success. I'm interested to see how much we see Toafili this upcoming season.
So you got those two, and if Jordan Travis wins the starting quarterback job, obviously you've got a huge running threat with him. So you got 3 guys touching the ball on the ground. Do you see anybody else factoring into the running back rotation?
We're going to keep an eye. We didn't get to see him a lot this spring. You got DJ Williams, the Auburn transfer. I want to say, a guy that, not maybe a lot of people are thinking about. During the spring, I was thinking a lot about him, but it's Jashon Ward, who just recently got put on scholarship. He was absolutely lighting up the spring scrimmages that we were at. I've heard a lot of things. Even players will tell you they have a lot of respect for him. They think he's the best back in the room. Been told that a lot of times. Just some things are hindering him with learning the playbook and maybe some other things. But it's a good sign that he's been put on scholarship. He was out there a lot during the spring scrimmages, and he looked almost unstoppable at some points. He was my MVP of the spring by far. We're going to see a lot of Trayshawn Ward this upcoming season. I don't know how highly he's going to move up in that depth chart, but he's got some nasty skill. And, if you're working into the fourth quarter and you've got a fresh Ward that you can kind of throw in there that nobody has really seen a lot of film on, and you can utilize him, get ready. That's a guy I'm really got to be probably one of the top 3 most excited guys I'm looking out for. And he was just put on scholarship, and we got to see a little bit of him in a few games. Jashon Ward looked good,
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how much he gets used, but that's a scary option when you've got 3 ahead of him that are going to be, your depth chart, and you can kind of throw him in to do some extra damage. So, yeah, keep an eye on Ward.
Yeah, Ward went for 44 yards against Arizona State in that Sun Bowl game, 10 carries in that one. And DJ Williams, to bring him up, and a bit forgotten by a lot of people, but again, 500, 600 yards rushing the last couple of years with 5 yards per carry and 5 touchdowns at Auburn against SEC defenses. So he definitely has been in big ball games. We got Logan Robinson on the line from Knoll Game Day, breaking down the roster on the offensive side for Florida State. Of course, Notre Dame's the week 1 opponent, and there's going to have to be some big plays made downfield. And Ontario Wilson's the guy with the most production coming back, at least 30 catches, 2 touchdowns. A couple other vets, including Keyshawn Helton in the mix, but hopefully some young blood's going to work in to the mix here too.
This is going to be a young room. You got, You bring back, you have Ontario Wilson, you've got Hilton, who was kind of some inconsistency last year with him. But like you said, Mark, there is a lot of young cats in this room still. You got a guy like Jordan Young, you got Portier, you got a guy like Darian Williamson who's been showing out. But you look at Brian Robinson, who is going to be a redshirt freshman. He looks great. He looks in fantastic shape. He had a great game in the spring game too. And then like you talked about in the beginning, Ontario Wilson, speedy guy, fast, and can utilize him definitely down the field. And they did that last year a little bit with Jordan Travis with some explosive plays. But the number one guy coming in that I think a lot of people are excited about is going to be Andrew Parchment, the Kansas transfer. This guy, talk about a threat down the field. You lose to Marion Terry, you kind of bring in Andrew Parchment here. He's still, deadly. If you want to have an explosive playmaker, this is a guy that you're going to want to have on your offense. He's going to be a starter, I believe, on day one. He's came here immediately. He was actually training before he was able to arrive into Tallahassee. He was training a lot down in Miami with the former Knoll, kind of pretty good running back, Dalvin Cook. Spent a lot of time training with him. He's came in Tallahassee in great shape and started working immediately with Mackenzie Milton and Jordan Travis. He's going to be a day one starter, in my opinion. And there's been some questions too about Destin Hill, and we'll keep an eye out if that ends up happening. If Destin Hill were to be arriving, the 4-star wide receiver, probably would have been one of my top three most excited to watch this upcoming year if he's still able to arrive in Tallahassee. Destin Hill, if he does, that's a nasty wide receiver room. But right now it's looking kind of 50-50 if he'll be at Florida State this upcoming fall. He's definitely for fall camp. But highlighting this room heading into the season is Andrew Parchment. But Mark, there's two cats that I don't think enough people are talking about, and that's Joshua Burrell and also Malik McLean. These two came in during both the spring scrimmages that we were at and absolutely blew up those scrimmages. I believe McLean played the most snaps out of any player on the football field, and I'm not even lying. That's a true freshman. And it was kind of a shocker to me because I was hearing some things at the start of workouts and such that, making sure he was fully focused and stuff. And it seemed like that kind of hit a whole 180, and he absolutely performed very well. And he obviously, both guys played, had an impressive spring game too. Those two guys are going to play a lot of snaps this upcoming year, and I'll put my whole bank account on it. Those two are going to play a ton of snaps this upcoming season.
Yeah, McLean showed out in the spring game, no doubt about that. He hooked up with Mackenzie Milton a few times and looked really good overall. And Parchment, you got to consider the numbers that he put up at Kansas. You got to figure, I can say this pretty confidently, worst offensive line in the Big 12, worst quarterback situation in the Big 12, and he still put up 65 catches and 7 touchdowns at Kansas. So if they're able to get the football to him, he could have a huge year for Florida State, of course. And again, Destin Hill would just be a bonus. It would be great to see him on the field. And it's great to add to the wide receiver production when you get a tight end who can add to it as well. You can have him as an inline guy, a guy that's split out wide, and Cam McDonald chipped in with 23 catches, and that number should soar this year.
Yeah, no, the biggest thing with Cameron, he's going to work into being probably one of your top leaders in this locker room. The production that Monroe Bell wants to see, because this room is absolutely loaded. I'm looking at it now. I mean, you got a ton of freshmen, you got redshirt freshmen. This room is stacked with depth, so you don't have to worry about that. But Cameron McDonald, it's time to get going, baby. I mean, he's had some highlight plays throughout his career at Florida State, but he's going to be looked at as a true number one let me figure out the name real quick. I'm losing. Oh, there we go. There's too many Jordans, but Jordan Wilson right behind him, the UCLA tight end transfer. He's a redshirt senior coming in. Those two guys are going to go 1 and 2. Jordan Wilson looks like a freak, but with Cameron McDonald, you can look at more of him in the passing game. He's almost like a hybrid wide receiver, almost. They can use him as wide receiver, tight end, blocking. But I think for Jordan Wilson, he's going to be primarily for a blocking guy. Still can be used for your hands, but those two are going to go 1 and 2, I believe, in the tight end room. And Cameron McDonald, it's time to get going. I think he's a phenomenal young man and represents Florida State very well. And I think Mike Norvell is looking at him to be a big time playmaker in this offense this upcoming season, because you look back at Memphis and how Mike Norvell ran his offenses. The tight ends were a big part of that, and finding success down the field and blocking too for their running backs. So these two guys, Cameron McDonald and Jordan Wilson, are going to be your star guys off to the side on the offensive line, tight end.
Yeah, Jordan Wilson caught 25 passes at UCLA. That wasn't one season, that was 3. So yeah, he's seldom used in the passing game. Did catch 16 as a freshman, but yeah, should be a big factor in helping out that rushing attack from the tight end position. Logan Robinson breaking down the Noles for us on offense, quarterback, wide receivers, and running backs. Logan, anything else on this crew?
Nothing else. A few names maybe to look out for on the tight end. Jackson West, a freshman that came in and put on some crazy size. I believe he's up 30 pounds since arriving in Tallahassee. The coaches, from what I've heard, were very excited to see him put on some pads at the beginning of spring. Someone to keep an eye out for. And also, I'm interested to see how Kobe Gross comes in. Didn't get to see a lot of film on him. You know, he commits to Florida State. He comes in as ranked as one of the highest JUCO tight ends. Interested to see. He looks like he's in great shape. Big boy. Has been working a ton since arriving in Tallahassee. Interested to see how, Norvell and that offense can utilize him, because I think he's going to try to work up that depth chart as fast as possible. That whole room is loaded. You got Preston Daniel, too, and Carter Boatwright. I mean, the names just keep going. That tight end room will be interesting to watch. That is another competitive room. But you got to keep an eye out on Jordan Wilson and also Cameron McDonald. Those are the big boys. Those are their 2 starters there on the tight ends.
Folks, you got to check out the work they do at Knoll Game Day. You see it right there on the banner. Check out Logan's work right there with the rest of the staff there at Knoll Game Day. Please give us a like, comment, share the videos out on social media. Keep it locked in here at the Voice of College Football, and we will come your way very soon. Break it down the offensive line and the defense with Logan. Logan, we always appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mark.